War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another E2C Network Live. It is Auburn versus Mercer preview. This live stream, that is going to be our topic. The first game of the Auburn football 2022 season has finally arrived. The Mercer Bears come to town in the 130th season of Auburn football. We're going to be breaking down on this live stream the game itself, the storylines within all of that, discuss what could and might be happening throughout the entirety of that game and things that we maybe want to see, predictions, and of course, your comments and questions in the chat. So thank you for joining us, whether you are watching live or on the replay. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kyle, and welcome to the E2C Network, where we share the whole of the Auburn experience. The most of you know the drill at this point. It is to right now is our check-in period to post where you're watching from, city, state, international, all of that good stuff, to let us know who is here hanging out with us to talk about Auburn versus Mercer tonight. And I am sincerely hoping that we will get some Mercer fans in here tonight. I doubt it, but I'm hoping we will see some of those pop into our stream tonight to say hello. We might even be doing something special for you Mercer fans if you decide to call in tonight. But right now, post where you're watching from, city, state, international, with a War Eagle. Let me know that you're here. Or Go Bears, I guess, if that's your thing, if you're a Mercer fan or whatever else fandom that you have out there. Thank you for joining us tonight. So let me be candid with you for a little bit. This is the first time we're doing a stream like this. Not to say we haven't ever done a preview of something before, but this is something that we wanted to add this year to our repertoire of events that we put on for you, live streams, content that we regularly put on for you. So this is what's going to be a regular occurrence, provided you all continue to show up, you enjoy it, it's working well. So that's how we determine that, is if you guys, respond to it. So that's how we'll know to keep going forward that. But we're going to do previews every single Thursday night. My goal was to have a Mercer content creator on here. I'd only found like one, and I never got a response back. Granted, I probably could have given them a little bit more of a notice, but so we weren't able to have anybody on there. So I'd like in the future to potentially have some extra voices on here to share in the conversation in terms of people who are part of that fandom that will be playing, which will get it really interesting in some of these weeks. You know how some of these Georgia fans and Arkansas fans like to behave on the channel here. So that could get interesting those weeks. So tonight it will be just me and you, but I thought we'd try something a little different tonight. And what we're going to try to do, I am not opening up the phone lines for everyone, but officially I am saying if you are a Mercer fan and you are watching live, you can call in. Now, I won't provide that link out until I get somebody in the chat, if we do, who's a Mercer fan, decide to want to call in. And please, I know it's funny, don't pretend to be a Mercer fan, just so I'll give the link out. But if there is a Mercer fan who legitimately wants to call in and talk with me about the game, please do so. So we've got the scroller going down there to let you know that option is available to you. All right. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of everything, let's let you guys say hello. Those of you that are already checking in, we got Devin here. Brian, good to see you from Minneapolis on my way to a Gopher game. Good to see you. Dustin, Tyler, and the Gump, Linda from Lake Martin, all of that. Yeah, there we go. James, good to see you. Something is brewing on the plains. I believe so as well. We got Headland, Alabama checking in. We are under 48 hours. Yes, Dusty, I have not had a chance to look at that yet, but I think we might be good. So I will look at that a little bit later tonight once I kind of wind down from all this evening. Thank you for reminding me of that. With that being said, there is really no set agenda. We're going to kind of figure this out as we go throughout the Thursday night live streams, how you all want to proceed in terms of content that you want in the preview. I thought it'd be fun to give out some predictions, not a score prediction, yes. And I've already given out mine in my preseason review. I hope you'll go check that video out. But, I thought it would be interesting for us to kind of dish out some hot takes. Like, we think this is going to happen. This is not going to happen. Who's going to get this many yards? So we're going to do a little bit of that. I do want to give you guys some information that we actually do have now, as I've shared with you guys on last night's live stream. We have a lot more access to information from the athletic department these days, so I can actually give you some information about the game, the matchup itself, interesting factoids. So let's start off with that. While you guys are kind of getting your first comments and questions about this game, go ahead and start typing those in now. Let me just kind of give you the rundown of just some basic information for this game for those of you that are kind of wanting some of that. Obviously, Auburn versus Mercer, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Excuse me, Central time. I almost messed that up. See, this is the problem with being in Eastern time. You assume everybody's on Eastern time. 6 p.m. Central time on SEC Network Plus, and I believe it's also on ESPN Plus as well, but that's not listed on the chart. So it's going to be a nighttime kickoff. The weather right now does not look favorable. It's supposed to be raining and thunderstorms off and on throughout the day, not late at night or into the evening. So this could be really interesting. It could be a wet one for those of us that are going out there. I will be there and probably toughing it out. As long as they'll have us in the stadium. Obviously, there's only been a couple of times where they've had to rain it out. Or not rain it out, but like delay it. Hopefully, it'll just be a bunch of rain and not be a legitimate problem for Auburn and Mercer on that night. 6 p.m. in Jordan-Hare, Auburn, Alabama. All time, Auburn leads this series 12-0. Auburn obviously leads the series in every category, but the games in Auburn, this I found interesting. When people think of a matchup between Auburn and Mercer, you would assume Auburn's never played at Mercer. We forget about the olden days. These have been going, these games have been going on forever. So there were days where, it was not unheard of for teams like Auburn and Alabama and Georgia to go visit some of these teams. There used to be a college, I think it's still there, called Swanee. That used to be like the dominance of the South. You would never hear of Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, LSU going to Swanee these days. Regardless, they are 12-0, 7-0 in Auburn, and there are 4 games that have been played in Macon, where they're from, the region in which they reside. 4-0 there for Auburn, and Auburn 3-0 there, if I'm getting my math right. 4-0, and then 1-0 at a neutral site game in Columbus. Columbus used to be a happening place for a lot of Auburn neutral site games, and I kind of love it. And I wish there's a part of me that wishes that still took place. Does anybody else, like, seriously, quick poll the room? Columbus, Georgia, for those of you that don't know, is about, I'm not looking at the map to exactly look at it. It's about 50 minutes, give or take, for I'm doing all my directions, east, almost exactly, maybe a little bit south of Auburn, Alabama. It's not a bad drive for Auburn, obviously, and there would be some teams I think that would have some good presence there. Georgia matchup there, a neutral site game in Columbus, Georgia, which is basically right down the state line, a border war type of situation. That would be really cool. Yes, in case I didn't say that, Devin, it is supposed to rain, so you do need to bring your poncho, as she has said. Columbus would be lit. Yes. I think a lot of the allure of Columbus has kind of waned off over the years, much like, playing neutral site games with Mercer. But it is, it's something that I think would be a really, really neat concept if it ever did happen. A couple more facts for you guys. If you want to know, if you're watching on TV, your play-by-play is Mike Corey, analyst Aaron Murray. That'll be fun. Sideline reporter Nicole Rigoni, if that's how you say it. And you can watch it on the ESPN app. We talked about the all-time record. They first played in 1896, and then we addressed how it broke down: 7 in Auburn, 4 in Macon, and then 1 in Columbus, Georgia. Last time that we matched up with Mercer, 24-10, the Tigers did win, and that was in the 2017 season. And a lot of people were referencing that on our last live stream, how frustrating that game was, but that was actually a really good team. So it just goes to show you can't take anything for granted when you're playing these teams. As said at the beginning of the broadcast, this is the 130th season of Auburn football, so this will be the first of that round of that special season. And of course, I'm wearing white tonight in honor of the Wear White game. That is your promotional stuff. So that's a lot of the quick hitting information about the game, history, and things like that. There'll be some other things that I probably want to reference in here, but just some things that I wanted to share with you guys tonight. Has anybody ever heard of Coach Drew Cronick? What a name. Cronick, I think, is actually how you say it, but I think Cronick when I see it. That's the head coach of Mercer. Never heard of him before. He is 13-9 at Mercer in 3 years, which is an interesting. Does that match up like 13-9 in his? I think it's his third year. It says right here. They're obviously 1-0 right now, and I will look at some stats and stuff for Mercer in just a little bit, but wanted to see what you guys thought about the matchup overall. Some comments or questions that you might have. Yes, Aaron Murray. He's your broadcaster, and you will have to deal with him whining about Auburn and how he got beat up by them a lot. But for the record, Aaron Murray was not across the the plane of the end zone in that aforementioned game. Now we can be thankful because the prayer in Jordan Hare would have never happened had he not gotten across that. Well, been said to have been across that line. That man was nowhere near a touchdown to even make that to where the prayer in Jordan Hare should have even happened. I don't ever remember Aaron Murray being bad on calling a game. Guess I'll have to pay attention this time. I think unfortunately for us as Auburn fans, Aaron Murray, we're never going to be able to see him in a reasonable light because of the amount of whining he did about Auburn at times. He made excuses about why they lost to us and that, we were playing dirty and pitched fits, and apparently his mom had something to say on social media and, got the full brunt of everything. Is it worse than Gary Danielson? No, nothing's worse than Gary Danielson. But he is not a great one that you want to see calling your particular game because of that history there and his whininess. And he's one of those guys too that I feel like doesn't get that his time with football was done and played much longer or tried to play much longer than he should have. So yeah, definitely pay attention to that. See if you catch any of the whining that happens in that. Let me just ask this. Does anybody think, you can share in the chat if you like, that Mercer stands a legitimate shot at winning this game? I'm honestly curious, and this is where I'd hope we'd hear from some Mercer fans tonight. I'm honestly curious what anybody thinks about this. What shot does Mercer have? Now, we say that within the context, obviously, of someone like Georgia State coming in last year and giving us every bit we could stand. If it wasn't one for now current QB1 TJ Finley, we would be sitting with an embarrassing homecoming loss to Georgia State. So, is there anyone out there that can make a case for Drew Cronick? Is it Mike Cronick or Drew Cronick? I think it was Drew Cronick. Drew Cronick and the Mercer Bears winning this game. If you look at their last game, I think it was 63-10. I'll pull that up in a little bit. 63-10, they beat Morehead State. So there's a couple of different ways that you can look at this, right? You can choose to look at it in the light of, which is probably the more reasonable light to look at it in. They played not only someone that was not clearly as good as them in their league, but they're playing within that particular division of football. Two different levels of skill, types of player. At least the Georgia State game last year, they're in Division I AA or whatever they call it these days. The FBS. This would be the FCS. Mercer's from. So it's a step below FBS. So yeah, they killed Morehead State, but they killed Morehead State. So it's really not a fair comparison now, but you also want to take this in context. You can only play who is on your schedule. So they went out, took care of business, and boy, did they. I was looking at some of their stats a little bit earlier from that game, and there's some pretty interesting things there offensively, especially, that I think should make you not concerned, but interested in some of the matchups and see how it matches up with Auburn. Let's see. We got a couple comments about, do they stand a chance? Yes, they really have a legitimate shot at winning this game. We have exploits on offense, center being one of them. See, I'm interested about this, Benjamin. Why do you think that's an area that can be exploited? Because there's no reason to think that yet. So I would have to think that you're judging Tate Johnson strictly from his size, which Coach Harsin has told you not to do. Not you specifically. It is you I'm talking about, but the general narrative behind this. I don't think you should consider that a weakness until you see otherwise, because there's been plenty of undersized centers who have been very good centers. It is, and as we talked about last night in our Wednesday night live streams, by the way, if you haven't been to a Wednesday night live stream, I'd invite you to come by. It's an open mic night. We talk about anything. Usually it's going to be what's ever hot at the time, and obviously football is that right now. But this is more focused on this preview of Auburn versus Mercer. So, yes, Tate Johnson could be a liability, but he's not yet. The true liability comes from Nick Brahms not being there, having to change that up and not having as much depth there, moving some other pieces around. That the problem that several problems that continue to arise for Auburn over the last few years was the inconsistent play of the offensive line and staying healthy. And that already appears to have reared its ugly head with Nick Brahms's retirement from football because of his injury. Neil, getting right to the point. We're going to ask for those in just a little bit. They do have a hot receiver. Now, it is one game, though. So my question to you would be, how can it be a hot receiver if it's one game? Everybody can have one great game. Now, if we had seen 2 hot games from this dude, I'd be like, ooh, that ain't a mistake. So we'll have to see. I mean, obviously, you want to look at who they played and see what happened there and make sure you pay attention to that. So it is good to keep in mind about the hot receiver that they have over there and running back or 2. Dusty says, yes, I've seen us flirt with disaster before, but it would take us losing the turnover battle by 3 or 4 for that to happen. I agree. I think turnovers is definitely a way that Mercer could find themselves in a position to win this game. I think the conventional knowledge would be that we're going to lean heavily on Tank and Jarquez, maybe even Damari as well. It seems like he's going to get some playing time too, to really get the offense comfortable, to really start establishing the run offense with that offensive line, get them used to that against this, and then open it up from the pass. Or maybe they'll just come right out and start slinging it around. I kind of hope not, because I'm a run guy, but maybe so. I'm old enough to remember AU struggling against Utah State when Gus ran the offense under Chiswick. I'm old enough to remember that too. What a time. What a time to be alive that was. This could be really bad or really good. I don't see an in-between. That's probably fair. Because if there's an in-between, it's probably something like the last matchup in 2017, where you had the 30 to, I should have it right here, actually. Let me back it up, and look. 24 to 10, a 14-point differential where we did not cover the spread. That one's kind of like in the in-between. It's very rare for that to happen. But I would ask you, what do you feel like is more likely to happen in this scenario? A big win or a surprising loss or super close win? Which of those 2 scenarios? The bad scenario, the good scenario, is most likely to happen. See where your mindset's at. Devin says Tate Johnson's been taking snaps all during fall camp and spring too, so it's not like he's being thrown in last minute. That's a fair point. I would agree that it is fair that he's not being thrown in, but he's also still young. And while I also disagree with using his size as a reason to doubt him yet, it is an area where you can look and say, okay, that's not ideal. So if the precautions haven't been taken to counteract that, put him in situations where that won't be as exposed early and he won't get uncomfortable, then that could become a problem. I just don't think it will be, especially against Mercer. Jeff, Mercer's very balanced on offense and could win top T-O-P. Help me understand. I'm sure I should get that acronym, but I am completely lost right now. That would put pressure on our offense. Turnover on. Why am I missing this? You love the shirt. I'm glad you like it. I thought about it as well, but I need more shirts to run through since y'all see me so much. Y'all can't see me wearing the same shirts all the time. So I have like a closet full that I just rotate through. And I needed to do something white. I have 3 other white shirts, 4 other. I have a tennis shirt and like 3 basketball shirts, Auburn tennis and Auburn basketball. Obviously, those are not appropriate tonight. So we're celebrating the 2010 national championship. So I can do the white out, at least for here, because I won't be doing it on game day. because I can't. The last matchup was awful. We looked so disorganized and all over the place. Harsin will have this team more disciplined. Yeah. And listen, everybody can have an off game. Last year it was Georgia State for us. Mercer was that game for us. And here's the crazy thing is we were never in danger of losing that game if my mind is correct. Why is this not scrolling for me? Okay, that's why. Let me back it out just a little bit here. I got to back this out just a little bit so I can make sure I have everything in front of me. It's nice to have all this information for the athletic department, but it is a lot. I was trying to find the breakdown they have of the scoring, but I'm not seeing it right now. If I find it, I'll bring it back up. You found the same shirt, not your shirt. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Time of possession. Thank you, guys. I don't know why that was slipping my mind. If they win the time of possession game, yes, that is. So here's what we're doing right now. Not that we're trying to be negative and say that Auburn is going to lose this game, but we're trying to develop a strategy for Mercer to make this a competitive game. Winning the turnover battle significantly. I'm not talking like 3-2, like we throw a pick and maybe fumble twice and they have a interception and fumble. That's not significant. I'm talking they're going to have to win it like the turnover battle 4-1, like Dusty was saying earlier. They do that and win the time of possession, which means they're staying on the field, keeping our defense on the field, wearing them down. Then that is a formula where they could find themselves in an opportunity to do something. Possibly, but maybe not. Let's see here. Auburn said, this is Amani. We haven't seen you in a while, buddy, but he's always saying Auburn's going to go undefeated. I don't know about that one. Kyle, what do you think is a good number of pass attempts for TJ? Great question. So these are the type of things as we kind of figure out what we want our Wednesday night preview shows to look like. And it's going to evolve as you guys, as I've always said, this is a channel that's created by you and for you in a sense. You kind of dictate a lot of what we do because I want you guys to keep coming back and enjoy what we put out here. So if you have topics or questions like that, please bring them up. Good number of pass attempts for TJ. Anybody else, if you'd like to answer this as well? I'm not going to look at y'all so I don't cheat. I would like TJ to throw about 25 passes and have a completion. I would like to see him 20 of 25 minimum, which means that accounts for at least 3 drops that are going to happen and at least 2 errant throws because they're going to happen. This is the first game after all. However, I think if he gets 25, I'll feel very comfortable with that. That means that we hopefully didn't have to make him throw a lot and we relied on our ground game more often than not. And then it gets an opportunity for a guy like Robbie Ashford to come in late in the game if we handle business and do what we should do against Mercer. And he can maybe get about 15 or so pass attempts, just throwing some numbers out there. I don't think anybody is truly worried. We're just see, this is the struggle with doing a preview show about the teams that you should beat. They're kind of boring to talk about, so we kind of have to develop speculation on top of that. 25 attempts, 50 pass attempts. It's quite a few. If we're doing 50 pass attempts, I don't think that's a really good thing. I like to see TJ with 35 passes. Receivers need to catch the ball. 100% agree. I could put that in bold right now, just flashing. Catch the ball. One of my biggest concerns coming out of the open practice, I talked about this on the post-practice live stream. We've talked about it in pretty much every live stream since. Was not TJ, not his interception, was the fact that balls were dropped here. A lot of those were happening from young guys. So that's a little bit understandable. It's just I kind of have a little trigger every single time I see that. So I do not want to see that happening a ton, but it will, especially when you're using some young guys. Let me get back over here to the depth chart. I'm going to learn the ins and outs of this information sheet that I have pretty soon here because I want to get to, there it is, the depth chart. Let's look at wide receivers, okay? That's a great place to start from in this game. So your expected starters, Shedrick Jackson at X, At H receiver, Tavares Dawson, which was a very big surprise to me. Not that I didn't think he would play. He wouldn't play or see enough time just to win a starting job. That shows you a lot. Malcolm Johnson Jr. at the Z. We got Coy Moore, Javaris Johnson, and Camden Brown as backups. All of those guys are veterans. Tavares, yes, he's been here, but he hasn't had a lot of significant game time playing. And then Camden Brown is like your main guy. Landon King is not even in there, which is interesting. He was the big hype coming out of this year. Camden had a few drops that were a little disappointing in the opening and the practice, but Coach Harsin even talked about it on his press conference this last week. Talked about how this is the first time some guys even get in a big stadium like that with some sort of a crowd, and you can see the change in the body language. It's new to them. It's kind of a little bit overload. So part of the reason they want to have those open practices so they can have people cheering for them, yelling things, experience those type of things. Dusty giving us his pass breakdown, what he'd like to see: 18 of 25 or 19 of 25, couple of touchdowns with no turnovers. If TJ walks out of the stadium on Saturday night and he has not thrown a pick and has I'm just going to say whatever percentage that is, somebody do math for me, 20 of 25, that thing, I'm going to call that a very solid night. Even if that's like barely over 200 yards or even under it, probably would be under it in that instance. I'd be very happy with that. I want to see our tight ends utilized a lot more. Amen. And you started to see that last year. And so when you look at the starting lineup, John Samuel Shanker, Luke Deal, don't think that means you won't see Tyler Fromm. You won't see Brandon Frazier, maybe Michael Riley Ducker. You might. This is only the two deep who they're planning to use right from the start. It's a great point to bring up in the first game, Jeff Schmedding and what his defense will look like. And I can't stress this enough. I don't know that we're going to get a lot of information about either offense, defense, or special teams. Solid information in terms of how it's going to do against the elite competition until that Penn State game. That is really what is going to show you where the problems are, where the good things truly are when you come up against true Power 5 football. This is FCS Mercer, followed by non-Power 5, but still FBS San Jose State. You're not going to be able to glean a lot of information that's going to be carried over into Power 5 situations, hopefully. I always have to add the caveat from now on with Georgia State, hopefully. 60% completion rate would be a good start. His, I think it was it like 51, 53, something like that last year. So anything above what he's currently doing is great. Blaine says he's really excited to see Dawson, see if he can fill Kobe's spot. Kobe is a big loss. If we had Kobe this year, I would have felt a lot better about the wide receiver room. I have full faith in Shed for him to be able to lead that unit there. And Malcolm, based on what I saw of him in spring and some in the fall. But it would have been nice to have one more veteran, true Auburn veteran, not a Coy Moore. I know he's a veteran by SEC, thought process, but I'd love to see a little bit more. Just throw it up to Landon King every play. No one's going to be able to cover a 6'5" guy. He's got to catch it though. And obviously if he was doing that well in practice, he would be starting. Everybody wants to see Landon King, and I get it, but coach is not giving him the go ahead. 80% completion. Jeez, that's tough. I did not see that Rudy Ford got signed by the Packers, but it's about time the Packers started signing more Auburn players. Blaine, I think we can learn two things from Mercer. One, if TJ has improved, and two, if our receivers have improved. That's about it. I think that's even hard to say from that Mercer game. Not to say that this game doesn't matter, but because look, we're talking about what we know, right? We're talking about the fact that we're playing an FCS school who we should beat. Even if it doesn't look pretty, we should beat. You're probably not going to have a really solid idea of how good or how bad Auburn is until much later. You're not going to have a really solid idea of how much TJ's improved. However, if he goes out there and throws ducks, you're going to be like, well, that's pretty obvious that something didn't work in this game. Probably needs to clean that up the next game. If the receivers are dropping balls, those are small things that you can take away. But in terms of overall larger picture stuff, it's going to take a little while to get there. Every once in a while, we get these weird comments in here. It's interesting. I always question what do you mean by that? My hope for the season for all Auburn fans to get behind Harsin. Enough of the nonsense. Unfortunately, I don't think, as most families go, you won't get everybody to get along. We found that out in a recent conversation that I had here. But hey, to each their own. All right, let me do this. Let me pull up, if I can, the Mercer. We're about 30 minutes into our stream here. So let's talk about some stuff that may happen, what we might want to know about Mercer for this game. Like we talked about. If you guys have any stats or things that you'd like to share or comments or questions about them, keep dropping them in here. Mercer versus Morehead State was their first game. They beat them 63-13. Really wasn't much of a option for them to lose this game because they were on them from the start. 43-yard pass from Ty James from Fred Payton. We'll talk about some of these guys in just a little bit. 65-yard touchdown run by Austin Douglas. These are just Mercer's first touchdowns. Austin Douglas, 56-yard touchdown run. Ty James had a 29-yard pass from Fred Payton for a touchdown. Yeah, that's about the rest of the time, it was just kind of additions on top of that. But what you see from that is they showed against an FCS opponent, they can be explosive from the run and from the pass. As someone said very, very, very early, this could be a very well-balanced team within the context of playing FCS schools. We'll see if it translates over to playing a Power 5 team like Auburn. We'll dive into some of that here in just a second. Auburn Elvis, good to see you, buddy. I owe you a response back, buddy. I know I'm late on that, and I will get back to you. I won't be able to join you for the show because I'm at Dragon Con right now. Are you in your Auburn Elvis get up or something else? I need to see if TJ's improved his deep throw accuracy. He overthrew the ball a lot last year. See, this is still interesting to me. Now, maybe it was you and me and you who were having this same kind of back and forth about this last stream or 2 streams ago. In my opinion, his short game was much worse than his long game. So that's what I'm really looking for. Blaine, we talked about that news a little bit earlier. It's obviously kind of old news at this point. Obviously, it's discouraging to hear that he's not going to be part of this team anymore in the traditional sense, but faith that Tate Johnson's ready and that Jahleel Irvin, Avery Jernigan are ready to go. And sometimes it's good to get some new blood in there. Dusty, no more than 12, 13 touches for Tank. Hopefully would like to see Cowboy and Damari get 10 plus. I would almost venture to say, Dusty, that you may want to limit the beating on Jarquez as well. So it could be a Damari show by the end of this thing. It could. Let me add one to that. Sean Jackson, who won a walk-on, well, he was a walk-on and won a scholarship last year. We all know that Jake Levant, the linebacker, won the walk-on now scholarship thing from this fall camp. I would love to see Sean Jackson get some, really nice runs and opportunities to show what he can do, because that's a guy that you just love the walk-on stories where they're able to kind of show out a little bit in some of these games. You do wear the outfit for most of the things that you go to, but I didn't know if you had something else that you wanted to do at Dragon Con. We appreciate you stopping by. We definitely need to improve our deep passes. Big plays have been missing from the offense for years now. I wouldn't say for years. I would disagree with you a little bit there, Dusty. I think probably the frequency of them is probably what you more mean. Maybe there's a case to be there, but I can think of several deep ball threats that have been here very recently and happened more often than I think we're aware of. But that's just my opinion. All right, let me pull this up. went away for some reason. I want to give you guys some stats from Mercer. If it decides it wants to come up, of course, it doesn't want to do it exactly when I want to. Here we go. Stats. All right. So obviously, these are their 2022 stats from game one. Their starting quarterback, Fred Payton, is a senior. So you got to think that this is a guy that's going to have a, at least some nerve to him, some steadiness, experienced. He had a great game, 248 yards of passing, 11 for 17. He only had to do 17. 64 completion percentage, 14.6 average per pass. He had a long 90-yard touchdown and 4 touchdowns on the game and no interceptions, I believe. Yes, 0 interceptions. And they had a backup come in, Drew Stotch, I think his name is. You probably won't see him unless he gets really out of hand and they want to save Fred Jackson for the rest of the season. Here's where it's interesting. Some of their playmakers. Douglas, let's talk about him. He's one of the guys that did really well running the ball. Austin Douglas, he's a sophomore. He's the one that busted open those 2 early touchdowns for long runs. So he's obviously got some playmaking material. Wooten seems to be their feature back, who had a solid game too. 13 attempts for 96 yards, almost broke 100 there. He did not have a touchdown, but he's averaging 7.4 yards per carry. Two-headed monster potentially for them that Auburn needs to be ready to tackle on the defensive front. And then who everybody was talking about earlier was their stud against Morehead State. You've got Ty James, who had 192 yards on 5 receptions. That is 38.4 yards per catch. 3 touchdowns. Wow. I'm just looking over some of his stats right now. Last year, he had 26 receptions, 611 yards, 7 touchdowns. So he's already almost has doubled he has almost half of what he's already done last year. So let me add this to my overall what Auburn needs to do, or in the other way to say it, how we were phrasing it. What does Mercer need to do to make themselves be relevant in this game? Win the time of possession, significantly create and take advantage of the turnover ratio, meaning somewhere in the range of 4-1 or 3-0. If they exceed us significantly in the turnover margins, time of possession, and if they can keep their passing game going, if they expose that there's still a weakness in the defensive backfield, you could be seeing a situation where Mercer could be in this game. Is it likely for all of those things to happen? I highly doubt it, but I've been wrong before. Other thing we can learn is which DB is on Ty James. Great point. So Ty James being that solid wide receiver, you would think that whoever gets matched up with him, my guess is that will be Nehemiah Pritchett. Let's look on here. Nehemiah Pritchett, cornerback, and Jalen Simpson. You might see Jalen Simpson on him. So I think if you're looking for questions to have answered, who is considered by the staff your best cornerback? I think you could make a case either way. I think Nehemiah is probably your more steady and solid option, but I've seen Jalen Simpson make some incredible plays as well. So maybe he's got the athleticism side of it. Maybe that's what you need up against a Ty James. What do you guys think? So let's make that our prediction. I would like to do in these segments on Thursday nights a prediction part of it. Who do you predict will be the cornerback that is stuck on Ty James, the feature wide receiver, for most of the night? Nehemiah Pritchett or Jalen Simpson? Who do you have? Or if you would like to make a case for someone else, sometimes we'll run a nickel out there. Donovan Kaufman's been in that situation a lot. He's listed at safety right now. But what do you think? What is your prediction there? Because I could really make a case either way. You want to see the linebackers? Well, you will see plenty of them. And I think they will do a very, very good job. I'm not worried about much on our defense, if anything. I would say I'm definitely not worried about the front 7, 8, however many we use in the box there. My gut says Pritchett, but I really don't know. Pritchett. I think if you were putting money, and I'm not advocating for that, but I think if you were putting money down on Nehemiah Pritchett or Jalen Simpson, your money should go. I would advise you to put it on Nehemiah Pritchett. But I can see a world where Jalen Simpson gets stuck on him as well. You've also got guys backing them up. Keontae Scott and JD Rhyme are backing up Nehemiah. Jalen Simpson is being backed up by DJ James. And I got to remember, it's not Rhyme, it's Rim. JD Rim. It's so confusing that we've got JD Rim and then DJ that are now new parts of this team are both cornerbacks. That's going to get really, really confusing. I think they'll give several guys a look at corner. So do you think that maybe there's like a tryout being had for who's going to be like that third one? Because you have your starters always, but you really need that third guy to really be ready to go and kind of be inserted in there a lot, if not 4 total. So maybe you're right. Maybe this is the tryout for really who is supposed to be the true 2 deep, because they've got 2 backups listed for Nehemiah Pritchett and JD Rim and Keontae Scott. Keontae got in a little late to the team in the fall, so that could be a little bit about it. Yes, you have missed a bit, but we're still here. We're still here. All right, let's that was a defensive prediction. I would like to know a special teams prediction from the room. Please share now. How many field goals does Auburn, and we're going to do score predictions last, so just save them, but how many field goals does Auburn attempt and make? Meaning Anders Carlson, because I don't see a world where you really, I mean, maybe they let Evan McPherson come out there if Auburn does what they're supposed to and gets really out ahead of Mercer. But I really just don't see it happening that Anders is not the one that's used the entire game. How many do we attempt and how many do we make? I'm guessing that means 3 of 2. 3 and 2. 3 of 2 is maybe what you meant there. WT, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Always happy to see you here, part of the streams. I'm going to throw out my I'm trying to think back to my prediction and make it match up, because I don't think I'm going to change my score prediction. And I'm going to reserve the right on these Thursday night shows to change my initial prediction in terms of scores, not necessarily the win or loss. Pretty sure I remember what I predicted. I'm going to, that would pretty much alter my prediction. I'm going to say we're probably 2 of 2 on the day. Oh, it looks, and look at my cousin and I are on the same wavelength. 2 of 2. 2 of 2 would not match up with my initial score prediction, which I'll share a little bit, but yeah. No field goal attempts, only touchdowns. Here's the interesting thing about that. Normally, I 100% agree with you, Imani. But we got to get this guy back into game shape, rhythm, and comfort level. I can only imagine what goes through his mind in terms of after taking that injury that he did, of getting back out there against real live opponents that aren't going to pull up and not really hit you if they have an opportunity to. So I would like for him to at least get something. Extra points, yes. But I'd like for him to get a high 30s field goal attempt out there. Anders needs to get off to a hot start this season. Gotcha. Hope it's 2 for 2 with 1 over 40 yards. Well, there you go. You went farther than I did, but I think in the mid upper 30s would be a good start for him to kind of get loosened up there. All right. So there's a special teams prediction. Let's do a offense prediction. At the end of the night, who has more yards? Tank Bigsby or Damari Alston? At the end of the night, who has more yards? Think carefully about this one. I don't think it's as cut and dry as you want it to be. In my opinion, that's a much closer matchup than a lot of people are going to think about. I think I know the answer, but like I think it was Dusty was saying early, there's probably, a touch count that they have on Tank to make sure he doesn't take too much of a beating. You guys say Tank, got a Damari. I think it's really close. Tank, he's going to hit some home runs, probably so. See, if nothing else, I don't think the level of defenders are ready for what Tank is going to do to them this year. That man, I think, is going to be on a mission. If you ask me Tank or Hunter, I say Hunter. That's why I didn't ask that one, because I felt like most people would go to Hunter, because I think most people can see a world where Tank gets his yards, gets out, and Hunter comes out there and dominates. But if Damari comes out there in scrub time, along with the scrubs of Mercer, if Auburn takes care of business and does what they're supposed to do, Damari could go off, like off. I could see Auburn getting out to like a 30-10 lead, and this be in the mid third quarter, and then just bring everybody in, and Damari just goes, just start in the, or maybe the whole fourth quarter, just it's a Damari show, and puts up 100 yards in the fourth quarter alone. Spelling, I think it's Damar, D-A-M-A. I think that's how it is. The backups will split carries. Maybe so. Maybe so. Thank you for reminding. I don't know about a great show, but thank you for reminding to hit the like button. I agree with you, Monty. I'd love to see Sean Jackson, but I think Damari is going to get the bulk of the carries. It'll probably be the Damari Sean Jackson show in the middle of the third, in the beginning of the fourth quarter. So that's a prediction. What else? Do you guys have a prediction? Not score yet. Not quite there yet. We'll do that in a second. What other predictions would you like ifs or ands, or, what do you expect to see? When you think about Auburn versus Mercer, what are you really wanting? What are the questions you're wanting to ask, the matchups that you're wanting to see? Yes. I have no questions about the running back room. Now, after this year, it gets a little interesting. Jeremiah Cobb is coming in, obviously, so that's going to be very helpful. But I wonder, what's going to happen after that. Will the next recruiting cycle, by the way, 2024 recruits are now being contacted by the staff officially. They've made a big campaign about that yesterday. So I'm really starting to think about what are our needs for the upcoming year? We can cover that in more detail in another show, but just wanted to point that out. And I think there's a big basketball recruit coming to this game, maybe I'm wrong about that. WT, I'm interested to see how well the O-line play together. Yeah, I think one of the things, other than just not getting the job done, was the cohesion factor that just wasn't able to take place because of switching people out for reasons, but also for injuries that really hurt offensive line over these last couple of years. You just wonder if the injuries hadn't happened when they did, if things would be a little bit different. Which tight end catches the most passes? All right, everybody, answer this question. Probably get to it in a little bit, but I'd love to see what you guys think about that. I think the easy question to answer is John Samuel Shanker, but to me, I feel like I could see a possibility where John Samuel Shanker gets maybe 4 receptions, but in scrub time, as I call it, Tyler Fromm, Luke Deal maybe pick up 4 more. So it could be a tie. I'm going to say a tie between John Samuel Shanker and somebody else. Camden Brown with over 100 receiving yards. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. I've cooled on him a little bit. Camden Brown's story to me feels a lot like the Tavares Dawson story. His is one I struggle with saying. Tavares Dawson story of last year. All the hype in fall camp, and then nothing really came of it. Not because he wasn't trying, but simply because he wasn't ready. Intellectual gent. I believe we'll have 2 wide receivers hit 100 all-purpose yards. All-purpose yards. So you're saying someone who is going to be kickoff returner. So let's look at that. That's a great point. See, this is why I love this show, because you guys bring up great points. I know that I do this for y'all, but this does stuff for me too. Punt returner, Javaris Johnson. So he is a backup to Tavares. Maybe he gets off a good punt return, gets himself maybe 50 yards of receiving. Yeah, maybe so. And he's the only one. So it really, you're going to have a wide receiver go over 100 yards, and then Javaris do something for all-purpose yards on special teams. How many sacks do we predict? 5. 5 sacks. 5 sacks for me. I want the offense to look clean and efficient. Special teams coverage units got to be improved as well. Yep, some of the penalties that we saw definitely need to do that. Is King counted as a wide receiver tight end? He has moved to wide receiver as per the coaches in fall camp. Will that change? They thought Jeremiah Wright was going to be a defensive lineman again, but he's back at offensive line. More of a necessity for the team. You guys say 5 sacks, 6 sacks, 6 sacks. Yeah, I think 5 to 6 is probably right in the ballpark of what we want to do. All right, so we're at 50 minutes. Let's go ahead and do it now. We can come back to any of those if you'd like. But for everybody watching live or on the replay, I want your final. Lock it in right now. Not that it really matters for anything, but I'm just for the fun of it. Your final score prediction. Who wins this game and by how much? If nothing else, the show is just entertaining watching me stumble over myself speaking. All right, we since we didn't get any Mercer fans call in tonight, I will put that down. By the way, while you're getting those predictions in, if you're going to post them, some of you are. If you know a San Jose State fan that would be willing to be either on camera / audio only, because remember, I can have a guest and them not show their face if they're uncomfortable with that aspect. I would love to have them on this show, even for just a little bit next week. So please let me know. I have a few that I'm going to reach out to, but sometimes people don't respond. You kind of just have to go with what you can work with. All right, I'll reiterate mine in a second, but here we go. You guys say 49-0. Not bad. WT 38-10. Reasonable. Blaine 56-17. Intellectual Gent 48-0. Kaiju 42-13. Donovan 52-6. Dusty 44-13. And Mr. OD 37-27. A little bit higher on the Mercer Bears there for that last one there. If you haven't gotten yours in, you can also put yours in right now. So based on what you guys are saying, the majority of you expect them to score some points. So this isn't probably not going to be a guaranteed shutout. I honestly think that you don't put up those amount of points without the ability to make some plays happen, especially in scrub time. So I foresee them getting in double digits. So for those of you that posted that, I completely agree, double digits. I don't think it's going to be very, very... I know I said the same thing when I saw the 27 come up. Yikes. In terms of points scored, it really is a question that we won't be able to answer definitively until we see what this offense is going to start to begin a concept of what they're going to look like. So I just tried to ask myself, how many rushing touchdowns do I think we're capable of getting? How many passing touchdowns? I think TJ will get at least one. I don't know that they're going to ask him to do a whole lot. But I can see like a world where I keep saying that a lot tonight, and you're probably going to hear that in a lot of these preview shows, where 5 touchdowns on offense at least come from 4 rushing and 1 passing. I can see a possibility of a special teams touchdown. So that makes that 37. And then I can see a possibility where we pick up a fumble, run it back, and a pick pick 6. So in that equation, there's 42, and I see us at least getting 1 field goal. So I get to my final score, and I will stick with my final prediction from what I did in the video of 45-17. The Auburn Tigers win. I think by a lot of people I've heard that's a little bit under where they would expect Auburn to be, but I'm trying to be a little bit on the conservative side for this game. It'll be a safety. Maybe. Let's see here. Let me back up. Auburn will be number 1 in the SEC in yards per play allowed. So you're saying we won't be good on defense? Is that what I'm hearing there? Do you mean number one, if as in we allow fewer yards per play than anyone? Maybe that's what he meant. I don't know. If Mercer keeps this close and scores that much, it's going to be a long season. Are you talking about in the 27 realm? Then yes, that's probably not the long season, but in terms of what it looks like right now. Purdue playing Purdue right now, 7-3. Not that it matters because it's week 1. Well, it matters, just not as much as it will when we get to there 2-3 weeks away. So, kind of in summary, post your well, actually, let me do this first. We're still learning how our preview nights are going to be. I hope you guys are enjoying this. We're not going away just yet. Final comments and questions, though, go ahead and think about those. Get those in. We're going to talk about those to round out our show tonight. As a reminder, if you haven't, please do smash the like button. It is a huge help. It is the easiest thing you can do other than just being here on Facebook, on Twitter. It helps us grow our little family within the Auburn family. Check out the links in the description for ways you can help support our content, such as being a Booster Club member. Those just went live, renew today, so I haven't had a chance to go over there and see if we've got any new ones or anything like that. But thank you to our Booster Club for supporting our content. But also thank you to our channel members. You can be a channel member if you're here on YouTube. $1 a month is all it takes. Hit the join button. It'll help you set up there. Very easy to do. And those are some things that you get access to as a channel member, just some recognition type of things for you all. I need to get on giving y'all another emoji too to use in chat. Yeah, so do all those things. As a reminder for our schedule for this weekend, follow all social media that you can, because I try different things all the time, but for the most up-to-date, Twitter, Instagram stories, I'll be posting things on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, somewhat in the community here on YouTube. On YouTube itself, you can hopefully expect to see a locker room tour, potentially, maybe a verse Tiger walk, definitely a Tiger walk, maybe a Four Corners pep rally, and definitely a post-game show of some format, maybe in a storm in my car from the mobile broadcast studio. We are going to have a ton of content. And I plan to be making a stop by the soccer fields on the way back on Sunday through Auburn as I head home to see part of that game. So lots of Auburn content this weekend. Stay tuned. It's going to be fun. All right, let's see what you else had to say here before we get out of here. We have the best running backs in college. As a room, we definitely, I think, are in that, but I think there's some very good running backs out there that still hold that conversation. If Tank goes out there and does what he is capable of, which is what Coach Harsin even said on the SEC press conference yesterday, his message to Tank is just to go out and do what you're capable of. If he does that, he will be the best back in the SEC and likely the best, and one of the best, if not the best in the country. Derek Hall plus Wooden and Leota will be unstoppable. Here, I'll throw another prediction out real quick. Who has the most sacks out of Derek Hall, Colby Wooden, Iku Leota? Right now, who do you think it is? Post that in the chat. Speaking of SEC teams, Tennessee leads Ball State. Oh, wow. Poor Ball State. I think Ball State had like one season where they were somewhat good. But yeah. Thank you, sir, so much for the kind words. Update on soccer. Auburn's doing really good in soccer in terms of holding people to ties at the very least. So maybe that's the way that's going to go. Leota, we got Derek Hall prediction. Ooh, there you go. There you go. That is a hard prediction, isn't it? I'm going to say Iku Leota. Iku, because he will be doubled the least. See, that's one benefit, right? Derek Hall is going to draw the majority of the attention, but I think Iku is as well. So that may be a situation that is beneficial for Colby Wooden. Super Pond, I really appreciate you sharing scripture and stuff. I'm just context is not there, buddy. So if you want to talk about stuff like that, obviously you can share it here, and I'm thankful to have that here. But let's talk about in person what your approach and goal is there. Let's see here. Trying to see if we've got any more comments. I think Marcus Harris, I completely forgot about him. It's not a bad prediction either way. All right. You might be crazy. I don't know, but maybe not for that reason. Guys, thank y'all so much for being here and hanging out with me, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. I mean this so much every time we get together from the bottom of my heart to have you guys here when you have so many other options to steal your time away or your Auburn time away. Means a lot that you choose to be here with me and spend it talking about Auburn sports a lot, but Auburn things in general. And I hope that you'll stay tuned this weekend. And the biggest thing, invite a friend to be part of our little family within the Auburn family. Thank you guys so much. I hope to see you on our post-game live stream or some other stream or content piece that we have throughout this weekend. Until I talk to you guys then, War Eagle, and let's go beat Mercer.